So thank you for joining us for Study Abroad 101. We're just going to go through the basics of what applications look like, maybe things that you should consider when thinking about studying abroad, and answer any questions that you might have. So at this point, just to introduce myself, I'm Tressa Zimmerman. I'm one of the advisors in the Study Abroad office. I've been working in the office as an advisor since September, but I was interning as a grad student there last year. I was very fortunate to be able to study abroad during my undergrad time. I went to Kenya, which was phenomenal, and lucky for me, I have family that lives in Europe, so I've been able to travel to Europe a couple times. I've been to the Caribbean and have just a yen for travel. So if Whitley, Alberta, and Yvonne, you want to introduce yourselves and talk about your class year, your major, and where you went.
All right, I'll go first. My name's Yvonne. I am currently a senior. I'm a double major in French and geology. So I've actually done 2 faculty-led programs, one for French and one for geology. One of them was in Southern California. We went to like Death Valley and the Mojave. That was for geology, and we studied rocks. And then the second one, I did our Senegal French program that goes over the summer, which is also faculty-led. And I got to practice my French and have a great experience there. Yeah. Oh, I've been working in the study abroad office for a couple years now. I'm a student worker. So, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Alberta. I am a senior. My major is international relations, and I have minors in German and public administration. I've done 2 study abroad programs technically during my time at Geneseo. The first one I did was a faculty-led program. It was part of Governor Cuomo's SUNY Stands with Puerto Rico initiative. So I spent 2 weeks outside of San Juan doing some light construction and roof repair after Hurricane Maria. And then last spring, I was in Berlin through Stony Brook's FU Best program, Freie Universität Berlin European Studies program. And I've been in the study abroad office since September of this year, and I am an advising intern.
Hi, I'm Whitley. I'm also a senior. I'm a psych major, French minor, and I studied abroad in Paris with SUNY at the Sorbonne for my spring semester junior year. It's the only program I went on, but I ended up staying a little longer just over the summer to do some free travel. And I have been working as an advisor in the study abroad office since September as well.
Great, thank you. So we have this great PowerPoint that we're going to go through. Can everybody see this okay? Yeah? Amazing. So studying abroad is such a phenomenal experience for many people, and it leads to unknown opportunities that you might not have considered ahead of time, and it helps you grow as a person. So why study abroad to begin with? For one, it increases your global awareness and your connections. It's this great opportunity to just gain perspectives on other cultures as well as your own, and really reflect upon what you know and how going to another place will change your perspective and thinking and being able to compare and contrast. It also enhances your academic experience. So with going abroad, you gain new viewpoints and insights, and you learn both inside and outside the classroom. And it's also a great opportunity for other excursions and to gain ideas for further research projects or other areas of interest that you might be interested in studying in the future. It's an opportunity for you to enhance your career and graduate school perspectives as well. So as already mentioned, you gain new knowledge and skill sets which you can take with you to be a more competitive candidate and a more valuable employee. It also strengthens your connections with faculty for letters of recommendation if you do a faculty-led program, or again, with faculty that you might meet abroad, and they can be a reference for you in the future, whether it's you're applying for jobs or you're applying for further education. it's a place where you can experience personal growth as well. So you might become more self-aware, self-reliant, resilient, more empathetic. I know for me, I gained more confidence when I went abroad, and I became more comfortable with being flexible. And finally, it's a place where you can, or it's an opportunity for you to learn another language. One of the great things about studying abroad is that you get really immersed in a culture. And while a lot of our programs don't have language requirements, you're still probably going to be around other languages on the day-to-day. And cultural immersion is the best way to learn a new language. So for Yvonne, Whitley, Alberta, did any of these resonate with you? Did any of these things, when you were thinking about studying abroad, were reasons why you might have wanted to study abroad, or that you gained in hindsight, where you can look back upon it reflective and be like, yeah, like this impacted me in XYZ ways?
Absolutely. I think I could speak to every single one of these bullet points. And the one I'll touch on is enhancing career and graduate school prospects. So after I got back from Berlin last spring, I interned in DC, and my desk at my job in DC was actually next to someone who had done the exact same study abroad program I did. And my supervisor had seen that on my resume, and she knew that this coworker of hers had done it. So she saw that as an opportunity to connect me with someone. And that made the experience really cool, because it just went to show like how small of a world it is, but it also went to show how not only did my experience abroad make me more confident and more sure of what I wanted to do in terms of my career, it's also made me better able to connect with people, and not just people who have done that exact same experience, but people who have traveled, people who have similar interests with me. I've definitely become a lot more thoughtful and reflective in my relationships with others.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then I would touch on every bullet point, but to spare time, I would say the biggest impact study abroad had for me was increasing global awareness and connections, and then learning a new language. I'd already been taking French in Geneseo, but just going to Paris, despite there being like a very westernized culture, it's still French is the main language, and that's what people prefer to speak. So my French just became much more fluent, and then making connections, I built relationships with my teachers who have since written me letters of recommendation to go teach English in France after undergrad.
Yeah, and as well, I agree with all of them. I would touch on the experience personal growth. I did find confidence, kind of like Tressa was saying, and I also realized like we live in a very regimented society, sort of like, and we can be expected to like do things on time, which I'm sure all of you at home are like experiencing craziness during quarantine. But what I'm trying to say is like, I found out that if you go with the flow, you can like be comfortable, and things do work out when you just, when you're self-aware and when you're surrounded by people who support you. So.
Thank you. And just to go off of that a little bit, even though I studied abroad almost 5 years ago, I know that with me, it impacted what I ended up focusing on for the rest of my studies. So I was a history major, ended up focusing on the very happy topic of genocides, but it's because of an internship experience, that I had abroad, and ultimately it ended up impacting my career goals. So again, just touching upon enhancing your career and graduate school perspectives as well, was an area that it really impacted me. So what opportunities exist? I'm going to actually turn this over to Alberta, Yvonne, and Whitley to talk about what they did, but just so you know some terminology, we have the two words that we really throw around quite a bit are host institutions and faculty-led programs. With host institutions, they can be exchange or one-directional programs. With exchange, what that means is that you are swapping spots with another person, basically, and so it makes pricing more comparable, usually, I shouldn't say always, but usually, to what you would pay at Geneseo. And with those programs, you would be paying Geneseo tuition, but again, going abroad to this other school versus one directional, which is a very common one that we have for our programs, is you go to that other school abroad and you would pay their tuition, and it would, again, just a one directional experience. Those programs can happen during the academic year, fall, spring, or even the summer months. And for some programs, we do have a couple host institution programs that also run during the winter intersession. And then we have faculty-led programs, which, again, I'll let the others talk about this a little bit more in depth, but they're basically led by a Geneseo faculty member, and they can happen during any intersession. So typically summer is most common, but we do have a couple that also get led during the winter and spring semester. So turning it over to you three.
So I participated in a semester one directional host institution program, meaning that on my own, I went to this program, and the program did have, like, I wasn't completely on my own, obviously. I met other students participating in the program and faculty. But one other important aspect of my program was that it was an island program. So essentially, I was on a German university campus, but in my classes were only other international students. And I was actually able to take my classes in German, but the reason I wanted the island program experience was because I was taking my classes in German. I was worried that if I was with only other German students, I would fall behind. So I knew that if I was with other international students taking classes in a foreign language, I wouldn't be the only one who would be like struggling to keep up maybe if I didn't know certain words.
I also went on a one directional host institution program when I went to Paris during the spring. It's technically a SUNY Oswego program, but again, because it's SUNY, it's open to anybody. I chose to do the English immersion track, but you can do an English immersion or a French immersion track. I just chose the English immersion because, similar to Alberta, if I had chosen the French immersion track, I would have been the only non-native French speaker, and I'm not 100% fluent, and so I chose to have my classes taught in English, but I was still the only American student in my class. It was just with French kids who knew English and professors who taught in English.
All right, and then I've gone on to faculty-led programs. So what our faculty-led programs look like is they're generally, I believe, a maximum of 4 weeks long, or 4 or 5 weeks, and you go with a professor from Geneseo, and sometimes they have, like, depending on the program, there will also be other professors from other universities that will help lead the program. For the geology one, all of my professors from the geology department went, so that made it really a fun experience. One, because you know your professors, and two, you know what they expect from you and how they run their classes. Then the Senegal program was very similar. I know my professor very well, and like I've taken all of his tests and know what he would expect from the class. And it was also the first time I left the country besides driving through Canada to get to Michigan one time. So that was a pretty big leap, going to West Africa. And it was nice to be with not only students from Geneseo, but also someone who has done this program before, the professor who I know and trust.
Great, thank you. So a couple different things were thrown around there. One was being in classes with other international students, and one was being with Geneseo students. That's the really nice thing about faculty-led programs, is that, as Yvonne was saying, you are with other Geneseo students. It's also a great opportunity for you to get to know other Geneseo students you might not have met yet. And you're in this very unique binding experience together that only you will ever understand of what the other person has gone through. With host institution programs, again, you're very unique in the sense of you're with the same group of students who are experiencing this with you. But it is common for you to take classes with other international students who might be attending the university as well for one semester, or attending classes with locals who are enrolled there full time. You get both. And we will go through later on how to search for programs. But I just wanted to say, as was already brought up with Yvonne, not with Yvonne, with Whitley and Alberta, you can obviously go on Geneseo programs. We would love you to go on our programs. But because you're a SUNY student, you're also in this unique opportunity that you're part of what we call the SUNY Consortium. And so you have our 100+ programs, and all of a sudden that opens up to over 900 programs in over 60 countries around the world, because you are a SUNY student and therefore you are eligible to go on any other SUNY program. So when thinking about where you want to go and what classes you might want to take or what type of program you want to participate on, you should consider your personal, academic, and your professional goals. So this is a map from June 2019. These are currently the locations where we have programs that exist in the world. Again, you can see it's pretty wide and diverse. Couple places on the African continent, European, Asian, obviously North American, and South American continents. So one of the most common things that we hear when we talk to students are concerns about studying abroad, what they consider their biggest barriers and hindrances. And they feel that they can't study abroad because of XYZ factors. Some of the most common include academic program requirements, thinking that they won't be able to take any classes for their major abroad, or they might not be able to complete their degree because they still have to take gen ed courses, or fear of GPA abroad being an impact on their GPA at Geneseo, etc. Luckily for you, if you go on a host institution program, your GPA is not factored in. It comes in as transfer credit. And with faculty-led programs, that would impact your GPA. So again, there's a big difference between those two. And with host institution programs, if you wanted to go for a full semester and you were worried about getting credit for the courses for, again, your major, your minor, gen ed requirements, etc., you would fill out something called a course approval form. And on that, you would say, these are the courses I'm interested in. And if it's anything for your major or minor, you take that course approval form with the name and the course description, and you would go to the head of the academic department and advocate for yourself and say why you're interested in the class, how you think it fits in with your major. And then with that, the faculty member would sign off on it saying, yep, I agree, this will come in as XYZ Geneseo credit for this major. There's also a lot of people who are just afraid of going abroad. For some, it's maybe their first time going abroad, or they're just uncertain about it. And especially in these times, it's completely understandable. And fear is not uncommon. I can at least speak to myself that I was afraid to go abroad. I don't know if Whitley, Yvonne, or Alberta were afraid. They can speak to that in a moment. But it's a very common thing. And we're here to talk through those fears with you and talk about how you might be able to overcome that. A lot of people think that they can't go abroad because of family and friends, whether it's leaving them behind, feeling that you might be missing out on something. Maybe your family is a bit uncertain about you going to a certain location. Again, very normal. And we're happy to talk through those things with you. And it's common to miss your family. It's common to miss your friends. But when you go abroad, you are going to be meeting so many new people, and you might stay with a host family, and they become a new group of friends and potentially what you would consider family members. And you have these brand new connections and experiences. And if you have family or friends who want to just know more about the program as you're thinking about going abroad, we would be happy to talk with family members. We've done that before, and I know that sometimes that can also help ease the fear. And we'll dig into finances and financial aid a bit more. But understandably, another factor when it comes to studying abroad, when people are making this decision, is, will I be able to afford it? And we have scholarships that you can apply for, both Geneseo scholarships and non-Geneseo scholarships. We'll talk about financial aid, how that impacts studying abroad, etc. But please know that even though that there might be barriers that exist, we are here to help you overcome them. So do you three have anything that you want to add?
I can speak on fear. I was terrified, but I knew I really wanted to go abroad. I had just never left the country before, besides Canada. When I got on the plane, I definitely cried, and then I cried when I landed, but it quickly. Like just being in a new country and like immersing yourself suddenly kind of like took over, and it was a change of pace, and it was definitely an adjustment, but the best adjustment you could make. I understand kind of wanting to like stay with friends and family and fear of missing out, but I ended up making a new family abroad, people I'm still in touch with. My program director, who lives in Paris, is like my second mom, and I still talk to her. So you adjust, you make new friends, connections. Don't be afraid. If you're scared, do it anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that, with everything Whitley said. Like, I remember the day before I left, and I was so nervous, and I had to like talk myself through the fact that I had been planning on doing this it had been a couple years for me, that I knew that I wanted to go on the Senegal program. And the day before was just completely nerves. But once I was on the airplane, I was on a new adventure, and like the change of pace happened, like Whitley was saying, and there was just so much to experience that it kind of takes the nerves away because you're focusing on something else.
Great, thank you. So tying in with how much does it cost, it varies from program to program. Some of the major costs include program differential, which will include health insurance and other factors. Again, this varies program to program. If it might include housing, it might include deposits for airfare, it might include excursions, meals, etc. Then there's tuition. You would pay Geneseo's home tuition. And if you're going on a host institution that's one directional, again, the program differential will take into account the other host institution's tuition, and your tuition at Geneseo counts towards that tuition. We have a formula that we use to do that. So you would pay Geneseo tuition, you would pay for housing and accommodations, which again, sometimes that's included in the overall program fee, and flights. Some other things that you might need to consider as well is if you don't have a passport, applying for a passport. Depending on where you're going, how long you're going for, you might need to apply for a visa. The study abroad deposit, which guarantees a spot on the program and commits you to the program, and cash flow and payment plans as well. Some other things that get calculated in is there's a $20 application fee for all of our programs. If you're applying to another student program, it might be a different program application fee. Any vaccinations, again, depending on where you're going, that you might need to get, etc. So how to afford study abroad. There are different ways of doing it. For one, with financial aid, you can certainly use your financial aid abroad. If it's a semester or academic year program, most loans, grants, scholarships, and other forms of financial aid can be applied to any SUNY semester or academic year-long program. This would be something that you would want to talk and confirm with Megan Counternect in the financial aid office, or any other financial aid advisor in financial aid office. And for short-term programs, so in this case, summer or intersession programs, for summer programs, you can access your financial aid if you enroll in at least 6 credits during the summer session. However, it tends to pull from upcoming fall financial aid. There are some caveats to that, of course, with any financial aid. And again, the best people you can talk to about that is going to be the financial aid office, especially because financial aid is so personal to each student. And then there are scholarships and grants. So we do have Geneseo sponsored scholarships that range between $500 to $1,000. And then there are also outside scholarships that are dependent on location. There are some diversity scholarships. There are some program-specific scholarships. So such things include the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship Program, which is specifically for students who are Pell eligible, but there's also Fund for Education Abroad Scholarship, the Boren Awards for International Study. There's Diversity Abroad scholarships, et cetera, et cetera. So there are various ways to get costs reduced to you by applying to these other entities. And even though we list a certain number on our website, and I will show you that later, it doesn't mean that those are the only scholarships that exist in the world. You can Google study abroad scholarships, and there are so many that exist. So definitely look into that. I know, Yvonne, you had another way of thinking about how to afford study abroad. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So for me particularly, money was a hurdle to get over, especially since with the faculty-led programs or like the summer and winter intercession programs, your financial aid doesn't it will pull from the rest of the year. So when you go on a semester program, you basically don't pay Geneseo's tuition, you end up paying the other university's tuition. So you could find a program that is cheaper than Geneseo and then just pay for their fall tuition or their spring tuition. But that wasn't available for me since I did a summer program and an intercession program. So what really helped me was one, saving and planning, and two, working with financial aid and the study abroad office to create a payment plan. I paid overtime, and that made it like a lot easier instead of doing like $1,500 chunks at one time.
Yeah. Whitley, Alberta, do you have any tips or advice or things that you might have done?
Yeah, I have some advice. When you're looking at these scholarships, don't think that you're doing this all on your own. If you have questions, like that's what the study abroad office is there for, to help you. And someone who has been a really great resource to me throughout my time at Geneseo has been Michael Mills, who's I believe his title is Director of National Fellowships and Scholarships. He has helped me apply for, like, I don't even think I can count on my hands anymore, like how many postgrad programs and scholarships he has helped me apply for. And he really knows what he's talking about, and he knows how these decision committees work. And so I think that's a great resource, and that you should be asking as many people for help as you can.
Great, thank you. So I do want to bring up quickly the Gold Amethyst Global Engagement Program. We do offer a gold global engagement certificate if you would be interested in doing this at all. And it just provides students with the tools needed for optimal study abroad experience, and resources also to help you return back smoothly. There are a series of workshops that go through different knowledge and skill sets and attitudes that contribute to engagement and meaningful international experiences. So there are 2 required pre-departure workshops, and then 2 pre-departure workshops of your choice, and then you would get to study abroad. And then there's 2 required reentry workshops, and then again 2 reentry workshops of your choice. This is extremely beneficial because it helps you make meaning out of your experience, and it talks about various cultural constructs, cross-cultural engagement, again providing you with various tools to help you navigate this experience, etc. So then how to get started? There are various steps that you can take. Definitely come talk to our study abroad interns. Yvonne and Alberta and Whitley are 2 of our interns. We have other interns as well. You can visit the study abroad fairs. We typically have one in the fall and the spring, and we tend to have smaller versions as well to promote winter intercession programs and other faculty-led programs. You can look at the programs online. We'll show you how to do that. Talk with your academic advisor. Definitely talk to your academic advisor, because they're going to be able to help you navigate when might be the best time for you to go, what courses you might want to take abroad or consider taking abroad, etc. And come speak with an advisor. I'm more than happy to talk with you at any point. And then you would do the application process, which you would apply for the semester prior to the semester which you want to depart. You would create an online application through Horizons. The deadlines will vary. So if you're thinking about going abroad in the spring, our 3 big deadlines are September 1, September 15, and October 1. If you're thinking about going abroad in the fall or summer months for host institutions, they are typically March 1. That's a newer universal deadline that we started this semester. And if it's for a summer program, again, those deadlines will vary, same with winter intersession. And please know that if you are going on a host institution program, supplemental applications might also be required. So the ways that you can get in contact with us, you can call our office, 585-245-5546. Just because we're working remotely, we are still able to take those phone calls, so please give us a call, or you can email the Study Abroad office at studyabroad@geneseo.edu. So to that note, let me stop sharing my screen quickly. Are there any questions at this point? I know that was a lot of information. No? Okay. So I just want to show you quickly how to navigate the Study Abroad website, how to search for programs. Again, if Whitley, Yvonne, or Alberta, you have any tips or tricks, please feel free to share. So this is, if you haven't seen it, our Study Abroad website. Has just about everything that you could want. We have here listed our current interns, where they went, and advice that they might have. We have a page about diversity resources. So just because you're going to be away from Geneseo doesn't mean that the same resources aren't available to you, and we want you to be as best prepared as possible. Here we have listed scholarships. So as you can see, we have Geneseo scholarships that are divided up by amounts and when they're available. Some of them, again, will be more specific. So like the Geneseo Italian Studies Scholarship is for people going to Italy on Geneseo programs. Long-term scholarships, summer scholarships, short-term, winter intercession, spring break, etc. So you can read more about the scholarships there and when their deadlines are. But we also have listed other scholarship opportunities outside of Geneseo with hyperlinks to learn more about those programs and those scholarships. You can also look for scholarships by going to Go Overseas 65 Study Abroad Grants and Scholarships. This is an article with great suggestions on how to research scholarships and list up to 65 various grants and scholarships that are available to study abroad students as well. Another neat thing about our Study Abroad website is that if you are interested at all in talking to one of us one-on-one, you can schedule an advising appointment. We are happy to talk with you remotely right now, whether it's through Google Hangouts or through phone calls. Please feel free to set up an appointment through there. And in terms of how to search programs, when you do that, you would click the Search Programs button, and this brings you to our Horizons page. This lists all of our programs and when they typically run. You can see there are various programs over the summer in Austria, and if you wanted to go to, I think this brings us to the P's, right? So Peru, et cetera, you can search through here. And then there's this nice search filter up here where you can filter by what you want to study, when you want to study, where you might want to go, language of instruction. So again, going back to that point that a lot of these programs are obviously in countries where their primary language is not English, but it doesn't mean that you have to know, that other programs or that other country's language in order for you to go. There are plenty of programs that instruct in English. There are, of course, a few caveats to that. We have a program in Spain where you do need to have a higher level of Spanish. We have a program in France where you should know French. But usually they're taught in English. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon again is the idea that you can go through any other SUNY program. So if you type in SUNY Study Abroad, you would be brought to the SUNY Study Abroad webpage. And when you click Program Search, again, this is very similar to our search engine where you can filter by where you want to go, what you want to study, which term, etc. So if somebody wants to throw out a location, that would be great to just give a demonstration of this.
Australia.
So when you click Australia and you say filters, you can see that there are 32 programs that are in Australia, and then you can see which universities they're through. So Plattsburgh, Buffalo, Buff State, again Plattsburgh and Buff State, Fredonia, New Paltz, etc. this is a really good starter list, is the way that I phrase it. It's not the ultimate list. So if you wanted to know more specifically about some of these programs, if you go to our Horizons page, you can see that we have a page for other SUNY programs. If you click this, this is where you would apply and let us know when you were accepted by the other SUNY school to study abroad on one of their programs. You would click here to apply and just let us know that. But this also has a hyperlink to every other SUNY study abroad webpage. So for instance, we know that Fredonia had a program in Australia, and you'd click here, and when you click study abroad programs, they then break it down even further. So, and that's about all I have for you. Whitley, Yvonne, Alberta, do you have anything that you want to add at this point? No? Okay, I am going to stop recording. I don't think we got any questions, which is fine. If you do have questions, though, you're welcome to email us afterwards, and or you can stick around and ask your questions then. So thank you for joining, and have a great day.